Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. So, today I want to talk about a topic that's sort of the opposite of what I was doing last week. And so the topic today is tangentially related to politics, of course, and it's about masculinity and modernity. And basically, I wanted to outline why neo-masculinity is dead and possibly the way that we can bring it back. So, I'm just going to get started and jump straight into it. So, the first thing that I'm going to do is before we get started, actually, I wanted to say, I realized that on this channel, I want to talk about topics that are really very broad and are very broad spectrum and touch on a lot of different topics. And so to do that, I'm going to need to be able to call back on certain logical bases because what I need to be able to discuss these topics is I need a sort of intellectual scaffolding. And so this is going to be one of those videos where I outline the logical basis and the logical fundamentalism of one of my thoughts. So today we're going to talk about masculinity and collectivism and modernity in general. So let's get started. So the first thing I want to talk about is the differences that outline the two sexes in terms of survival strategies and how that's shaped their psyches throughout history. So as usual, let's let the ladies go first and let's start with women. If you consider women are unable to survive by themselves. Historically, women have never been able to provide for themselves because they don't have the strength, the resilience, and the sort of materialistic acumen that men have. They don't have this intellectual capacity to, like rotate a 3D cube in their head, for example. The spatial awareness meme, and that's very real. And so for women, the key imperative for survival has always been approval of the herd. And actually, that's more ancillary to the main imperative, which is simply herd life. It's for a woman, it's extremely important to be able to connect with the herd because they are who guarantee your survival. It's through numbers that they find strength. And so, logically, if we follow that to the conclusion, the logical conclusion that we want to jump to, the conclusion is obviously that this breeds a sort of hive mind collectivism, but that'll be for later in the video. And so I want to focus a little bit more on masculinity. So we understand that masculinity being the opposite force to femininity, masculinity is about standing on your own 2 feet. It's about surviving by yourself. It's about self-sufficiency and independence, right? And so if you look at traditionally what men, women are attracted to, it's not men who are needy or who are incapable of providing for themselves. It's men who are confident and who are ambitious and who can drive their own lives and who have a sort of will to power that's exuded throughout their action and their dominance, right? What is dominance about? It's about getting to what you want through your own means. That's really what it means. And so we can see that from the start, there is a massive psychological difference that is built from the biological difference that exists between us. And I know this is really basic stuff and that anyone with two brain cells to rub together can come to this conclusion, but these are topics that I need to lay down in order to later be able to expound on these and actually build some sort of intellectual scaffold in order to reach better and more interesting conclusions. So that's part one. Femininity is a life force that women have that compels them towards collectivism and compels them to be in line with the group. I mean, you can see this in the way that women bully each other. How do women bully each other? It's by speaking ill of another with the ultimate goal of excluding them from social circles. Why? Because to women, exclusion is a death sentence. You cannot stand against the herd if you're a woman. That is a death sentence. You can't survive by yourself. And so when the herd is not accepting of you, that is basically drastically lowering your chances of survival. And if you compare that to male bullying, what's male bullying? Male bullying is I'm going to directly threaten your life. Excluding you from the group is not going to do much, right? Because you can take care of yourself. You have your own strength, you have your own acumen, you have your own wherewithal. So male bullying is I'm going to, directly threaten your life with extreme physical violence and brutality. I could go on, but this is the sort of basis that underlines this thought, is that women tend towards collectivism and men tends towards individualism as a general rule. So now for the second part, I want to talk about why killing masculinity was such an important element in constructing the modern landscape that we live in. It's key because, as I said before, masculinity is something that requires individualism and self-sufficiency and independence, a separation from the herd. This is something you hear and see a lot from men who are achieving a lot, is that they constantly go against the grain. And masculinity does have this element of rebellion. It has this element of independence and of not being satisfied with what's around you and not being satisfied with what the people around you are doing. And it's got this element of wanting to go out there and explore and take things for yourself. So, if you think about it, modernity is, we live in this landscape that has totally collectivized and flattened everyone's minds, where, and this is like a big part of why we say that femininity, the modern world is so feminized, is because the modern world is in fact so collectivized, is because we are fed messages through the main media apparatuses that seek to make everybody a big collective that all thinks the same. It seeks to make people a hive mind. And this is both a direct consequence and a direct step in reinforcing this feminization of society. And so this is why in public, if you have discussions about anything and you're being candid and honest about your opinions, you will get people who come to you and treat you like some sort of enemy. Is because you are directly threatening the system by being independent and by being challenging. You're challenging the system through your self-sufficiency and through your rejection of group mentality. And so the death of masculinity was an essential element in the creation of the modern landscape. So essential, in fact, that now masculinity is beyond dead. It's even the rotting corpse in the grave has been torn to shreds by worms and other parasites. And so what needs to happen is a revival of neo-masculinity, a revival of the masculine tendencies amongst men. So for part 3, I'm going to talk about some of the ways that we can revive classical masculinity in our society. And this is clearly something that young men are interested in. When you see the rise of Andrew Tate, and I'll make a video about this later, I don't want to talk about him too much here, but when you see the rise of figures like Andrew Tate, or even before him, figures like Jordan Peterson, it's very clear that young men today are not satisfied with this very feminine, very collective, very nurturing lifestyle that they're being fed. And they want more. They yearn for responsibility. They yearn for challenge. They yearn for failure even. They yearn for that safety net to be removed. They yearn for real consequences for their actions. They yearn for something more than the eternal and endless hedonistic cycle that they're being fed from birth and indoctrinated with through school and social life and through social media especially. So Andrew Tate is a psychological avenue with which young men have sought to reclaim their masculinity. But I personally don't think that this is the healthiest way to do it. And I'll tell you why in another video, because otherwise it would be too long. So what I think is the ultimate way right now to regain masculinity in this modern sphere, in this modern landscape, is, of course, first of all, to reconvert back to Christianity for those who've lost their way, or to convert to Christianity, because the ultimate masculinity is a mediation of two extremes, and I'll expound on this in a later video as well. But the ultimate form of masculinity is a constant juggling act between two extremes, and that's the hardest thing you can do, and that is, to me, the presence of God in an individual. So what matters is being able to juggle and stay in the middle. That's masculine. And to do that, the key thing that men are going to have to do is to be able to separate themselves from their environment. This is something that a lot of philosophers have talked about over the years, a lot of existentialists. They talked about reclaiming masculinity in a way that is separate from the herd. In order to be able to shine and fly high, you're going to have to separate yourself from the mediocrity of the people who surround you. And I know that sounds harsh, and I know it sounds maybe even arrogant to a degree, but the matter of the fact is that average people who are mediocre and who do not want to work hard to excel and be brilliant and shine will also work against those who do want that. Their wish is to go against the people who want to work hard and who want to excel and who want to shine, who want to be brilliant. And so you need to separate yourself. I know this is like a meme and this is a sort of a cult icon, the sigma male grind set. I mean, if you think about it, why is that attractive to young men? It's because instinctually we know that through isolation, as men, we can actually grow a lot more than through herd mentality and through this sort of collective consciousness, or whatever meme is happening in the neocons right now. It's not a collective conscience awakening. It's an isolated conscience that is ameliorating itself and its knowledge and its relationship to God. And that is sort of the only way that young men are going to reclaim their agency over their own life, is by going through challenges that they have to face alone. Because if you can't face a challenge alone, you sure as hell are not going to face a challenge when you have a wife and kids in tow, or a community in tow, or even a whole country in tow. When the chips are down, if you can't do it by yourself, you're not going to do it when people are depending on you. That's just not how it works. And so, in order to be able to grow, and this message is especially important for younger men, teenagers, even tweens, who want to escape this lifestyle. That's what you need to do, is escape. You need to separate yourself from the herd. Because as previously mentioned, femininity will seek to flatten out and iron out any wrinkles in the collective conscience, right? It's, if someone thinks differently, it's a bad thing, because for them, there's a chance that person could be right. And if that person is right, that means that you then need to change your life in order to follow them. Because remember, women are followers, they're not leaders. No woman will ever lead a group of men. That's just demonic. That is purely satanic, in fact. So women cannot lead. And so if a man is standing against the herd, for him to stand against the herd and be so sure of himself, that means that he has the possibility to influence everyone within the collective to change their life and follow him. And bear in mind that changing your life is something you need a lot of courage to do. It's something that is difficult. It's hard. You need to put effort into it. You're going to fail. You're not going to be rewarded straight away. It's insanely difficult and painful, and it's not pleasant. It's not the easy, lascivious, and licentious hedonism that people are born and raised in this society and in these cultures that we call the West. But for men, it is so key to be able to stand against the herd, be able to look the world in the eyes, stand your own 2 feet and say, I am right here and I will not budge. And even if it kills me, I will not budge. That is the most important thing that you can do as a man, in my opinion. You must stand on your own 2 feet, and you must be willing to sacrifice things if you truly think that you are in the right. Because if you do that, then you will convince people in the herd that you're right, and you will become the new leader. You will become the new figure that is inspiring generations, that is inspiring people and pulling them towards God. I mean, that's the most beautiful thing you can do, is save souls that way. So to outline and sort of conclude what I was saying, we clearly can derive from biology alone and from pure observation, if you are intellectually honest with yourself, or just even honest at all with yourself, that men and women's biologies directly influence their psyches and their psychology. And so that breeds two sexes that think totally differently about collectivism and about the group. Men think about the group insofar as it's useful to their own goals. And that is a very noble thing if your goals are noble. If your goal is to bring society closer to God, then using the group as a way to get there is, I mean, that's perfect. You fix society by doing that. You make everyone better. You make everyone's lives better off. But if you're a woman, it's about following the group. It's about the survival instincts. It's about, women standing against the herd. Their brain is on like Amber Alert. It's like, dude, don't do that because you're going to die. That's why it's so hard for women to be confrontational. That's why it's so hard for women to think differently. That's why women are so indoctrinated, and women are the ones pushing these ideas, is because it's not even because they genuinely like intellectually rationalize and internalize those ideas. It's genuinely because the society around them is pushing those ideas. And so they want to push them to feel included. But the flip side of that is that the minute that women recognize a true masculine male and a true presence, a true ambitious drive in men, they will immediately gravitate towards that, and they will immediately drop all of the indoctrination. Because again, it's not like they're useful idiots in the sense that they genuinely believe what they're pushing forward. They're only doing it for social approval. They're genuinely only doing it because it nets them social points. It gets them likes, or it gets them, more popularity amongst their friends, because of, again, this fake empathy. And I'll make a video about this later as well. It's about this co-opted and hijacked sense of empathy that women have, which is constantly being brought forward, which is constantly being called upon in order to justify all these intellectual failings. So for women, it's extremely important for them to stand with the herd and go with the flow and not present a challenge and not present a countercurrent, a counterculture. And for men, it's extremely important to do that. It's extremely important to be the counterculture, to present the countercurrent, to be able to stand in the face of society and say, I'm not wrong and I'm not going to budge. That's extremely important, even if it comes at great personal sacrifice. Because at the end of the day, if you are going with the flow, even if you think differently, but you're not willing to speak up, you're not willing to put your life on the line, you're not willing to risk everything that you have, all the meager material possessions you think you have, which you won't take to heaven with you, by the way. That's all going to stay on earth. That's not coming with you to heaven. You know, your car is not coming with you to heaven. Your house, your PC, all your belongings, that's staying here, bud. So you might as well let that go early in order to actually change things about society, which will help more people and yourself get to heaven. You might as well do that. I'm not saying be an idiot and be a total radical who's going to go out there and, well, I am saying be radical. Actually, that's not true. But I'm not saying be an idiot and expose yourself and lose things needlessly. But I am saying you will need sacrifice and you will need to be able to go out there and stand against people and have something to lose as a consequence. Because if you always play within the rules, you will not make it. You will not make anything of yourself and you will not change anything. That's the most important thing. I want people in this movement to be able to change things, really. And so that requires sacrifice. It really does. And it requires a true form of classical masculinity, which is to say, I'm going to stand up for the right thing, even if it kills me. And that's Christ-like as well. That's the most Christ-like thing you can do. They killed Jesus because he wouldn't stop saying what he was saying. They killed him for what he was saying. So, to conclude, the society has been feminized. The collectivism we see in society is both a direct product and also a direct step in the further feminization of society. And so if you really want to reclaim your masculinity, you're going to have to play up that instance of rebellion. You're going to have to do all the meme online manosphere stuff. You're going to have to take the red pill and, start lifting weights. Obviously, that's good for your health. I'll never count a signal working out. I'm an avid fan of that. But lift weights and have a good diet and get proper sleep and have a good routine and a productive routine, because in reality, it's not like working out is a goal in and of itself. But all of those things are part of a routine that expands your ability to be productive and to affect change in society. But I'll make a video on that later as well. To conclude, to be truly masculine, you must stand opposite to the herd and you must be the countercurrent. You must be the wave that is countering the wave in a peaceful way. You must be the mediator. You must be, both the extremist to these people, but also the mediator to the other extreme. You must be Christ-like and you must be masculine. And separation from the herd ultimately is how you will grow in your manhood and develop yourself as a person. You will never grow if you are constantly held down by the very people who surround you. You will never grow if you constantly listen to the people who tell you that being complacent is okay and who are constantly giving you excuses. You'll never grow like that. You will grow when you isolate yourself and you push yourself to the brink of failure for everything that you do. That is how you will grow. That is how you will make your faculties and your capacities better and stronger and more competent, more productive in reality, more productive and more able to change things. So yeah, that's about it. That's about all I wanted to say for this one. Just a short little video, just recapping something. Again, as I said, sort of one of these basic videos, because this is like a building block. Future videos will be referencing this one and the building blocks we've had here. Namely, if I'm just going to conclude from my notes, the survival strategies that differentiate the two sexes: women are collectivist because they can't stand on their own 2 feet. Men are individualist and rebellious because they can, and because ultimately they strive for something higher. Masculinity is about self-sufficiency. It is about standing on one's 2 feet. Namely, that masculinity is dead because modernity seeks to flatten the collective's minds. It seeks to normalize and level out. We have this great expression in French that says nivellement par le bas, which means you take the lowest common denominator and you level out from there. That is what modernity seeks to do, is everyone can only run as fast as the slowest person, basically. And that is what modernity seeks to do. And obviously the people who are a lot more brilliant and a lot more intelligent will suffer because they're unable to grow. And then that will breed a whole new genre of depression and nihilism within itself. And of course, the conclusion to that being that Separation from the herd is absolutely key in growing yourself as a man, and your self-sufficiency, your drive, your ambition, and what you orient yourself towards in life. Those things are all extremely important. So yeah, that's about it. That's the video. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you like that, just remember to subscribe, share the video if you want, drop a like, comment, do all the YouTube stuff, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.